Namaste. Salam alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, friends. Very warm welcome and thank you very much for joining this session. I am speaking from Secretariat Office of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation based in Nepal. Here we are conducting this session in partnership of 4 organizations. Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. It is a global network for changing the narratives around menstruation. Canada Council for Arts and Mutual Production Canada. Mitiri Biodegradable Pad Factory Chitwan, Nepal. Gift for Girls Nolpasi, Nepal. This is our outline of the presentation. We will be talking about the dignified menstruation from various aspects, including the importance of the giant puppet workshop and show, social media, and how does the technology make it happen in such a short time frame and COVID pandemic. Here I would like to introduce my colleagues. I'm Radha Paudel, the founder of Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. And Savitri, hello Savitri, wave your hand. Shapna, Shamir, Punam, Lal, and ODT. We have different roles. Please, ODT.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have the pleasure of starting this session with a number of questions. So I invite you to just arrive, feel comfortable. Whether you like or not, you may choose to close your eyes. This is a meditation in looking back. Please start to think about your best place in your life and focus. Think back. If you are 20, go back. Wait a minute. If you are 80, go back. Go back 20 years. If you are 40, go back to when you're 20 years. Now go further back. 19 years old, 18 years old, 17 years old. Become younger, teenager, going into your childhood. In that time between teens and childhood, I want you to think about these particular questions. First, at which age did you learn or hear something about menstruation? How did you learn, hear, or see this? Where and from whom did you learn or see this? And from that deep place, what was your first reaction right after that moment? Thank you. I'm going to pass this back to Radha to invite questions and discussion, if I may.
Thank you, ODT. Let me explain my story, and then I encourage to other friends to share the stories, and we'll have about 12 minutes for this exercise. When I was 7 years old, I learned about menstruation from my mother. She was she was standing on a backyard of the house, and I saw the blood spreading all over her leg, and I was shocked. And then I asked about it, and she replied in a very filthy manner that it was the impure blood happened due to the sin from the God, and every girl would go like this. And this is how I deeply traumatized. In the meantime, I also observed various kinds of menstrual discrimination. My three sisters and mother were not allowed to enter in the kitchen to cook, to wear the clothes is the same as like other times, and not allowed to toss the flowers, fruits. So this is how I learned. I socialized about the menstrual practices in my hometown in Nepal. Who wants to go next? Anyone, just raise your hand, or like to, if you like to write in a chat box, please feel free to write in a chat box as well. My colleague
I would
Shapna will
like
read
to.
out.
Okay, I would like to share my experience. At the age of around 12, when my mom wake up early in the morning and she wash the clothes, and I asked my mom, why are you waking at the early and what are you doing? And my mom replied me, I'm washing my clothes that I use during the menstruation. And I asked her, why are you washing it morning? You can wash after 10 when the sun will arise. And my mom said that the menstruation cloth must be washed hiding from the family members because menstruation is impure. She said me the menstruation is impure. And I asked her why the menstruation is impure. And she only said that it is culture and it is practices from the past years. And I asked, and why are you not using the cloth in the sunlight? And my mother replied that it should be hide from others because when other people of the family members see the cloth, then it God will shine the family members. And the first time I feel that the menstruation is impure and I shocked. I am pure and my mother is impure. That is the first impression I got from the conversation with my mom. Thank you.
Who wants to go next?
I would like to go next. Hello, everyone. It's Miss Apna from Nepal. And I'm very much excited to be a part of this session. And I would like to welcome you all. And answering the questions, when I was 9 years old, I learned from my mother about the menstruation. And how I came to know about the menstruation is she never entered to the kitchen for the 4 days. And during that time, I felt so bad to see her depending upon other family member to have a glass of water. So this is how I learned from my mother about the menstruation. And at that time, I feel so bad and so bad to see her like that. And at that same time, I somewhere in my heart, the feelings emerged that I will be the replicate of my mother because I'm from the same family member, and I have also practiced all the I also have to practice the same situation in future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Who wants to go next? Yeah,
Radha,
please.
may I?
Please, sure.
I'm 62 years old. I was born in Canada. And when I was 10 years old, I started my menstruation, but I had zero idea what was going on. There was blood, and I thought maybe I was sick. And my mom noticed, and she came and she handed me some pads and a belt. She explained nothing. She just said this will happen and use these. So I had no sense that this was connected with reproduction. I had no understanding whatsoever. And then I think 2 years later, they had a little education in school, and it was a video about sexuality and reproduction. Menstruation was not mentioned. And I remember the teacher, a young man at the front, and then going to the back of the room and actually leaving the room during the video. So there was some sense of something's not right here, and I didn't understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? I saw so many friends joining over here. Thank you so much. You are very, very much encouraged. And please feel free to share your story about the menstrual journey or menstruation, whatever you explain, whatever you like to describe. I saw Irfan. Do you like to share, Irfan? Who wants to go next? Catherine, Abreu.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, please.
So I was on mute, so that's why I couldn't share. Yeah, so I would like to share how I learn about menstruation. So I was in school, like maybe in 6th grade or 7th grade, around 12, 13 years of age, maybe. Yeah. And as an Asian family, and we live in a joint family, so we all used to sit at evenings in the kitchen, and all the family members used to, like when we had our dinner, then we used to sit with our grandmother and father, mother, grandparents, and all the cousins. We used to sit together and have chit chats, and our grandparents used to tell us stories about that, about like incidences of the past. So one day when we were sitting there, and all of a sudden my mother, she ran away from the kitchen, and like we were astonished to see like what happened. Uh, I was not aware that women, like about the topic of menstruation or what happens to women at that time. So when she stood up and she ran away, so the place where she was sitting, I saw blood there, and I just started crying that somebody might have got hurt or something, like when I saw that blood. So when my mother ran out, so the other women, like my aunt who was there, she uh, rapidly took the clothing there from there and ran outside, and uh, they did not tell us anything like what has happened. So at that time, I also did not know, but I thought that maybe my mother might have been hurt. She might, and that's why she had bled. So I did not had any idea until later on when I reached to like grade 9 and 10, when we studied menstruation cycles and reproductive health, and then I got to learn about menstruation, that, and I recall that, like, yes, at that time, like, nobody talked about it in the family. Even our grandparents scolded us, like, not to say anything about it and keep quiet. So this was my experience at that time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, Lisa, go ahead. Lal, would you make her unmute? Yes, please.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. So interesting to hear such different experiences of menstruation. I was born and raised in Zimbabwe. And I have a mother who is a very open person. But even for such an open person, she still wasn't equipped with the tools to guide me through that experience of my first menstruation, which came when I was 11. And I remember going to school that day. She's like, "Oh, I think you're starting your period," but off you go to school. And I remember being deeply emotional that day and crying the whole day, because I really didn't know what my body was going through or what I was experiencing. And I had friends sort of comforting me, and people at school seeing me crying and not really understanding what I was going through. And, you know, and also I know one of the participants mentioned the experience of not understanding the reproductive implications of what getting your period or menstruating means for your body, and becoming, you know, an adult in that regard. I had no understanding of it, zero. There was no education, there was no preparation for it, there was no understanding of your anatomy. And actually, you know, I think only now, as you know, in my late 30s, am I really having a full sort of scope and understanding of the journey and the cycle of my body through menstruation, perimenopause, and so on. And you know, that lack of information is shocking. And the fact that we don't talk so openly about it, not just for ourselves, but also to prepare society for what we're experiencing, I think is quite shocking. And I'm so amazed and grateful for sessions like this where we can talk about it so openly, and also, you know, the education and tools that are becoming more available digitally, etc., I think is really encouraging. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. We will have enough time, altogether 90 minutes. We'll discuss, and let's share our presentation experiences, and then we will discuss about it again. For Global South Coalition, menstrual discrimination is a problem. It is an umbrella term. It refers to taboos, shyness, stigma, restriction, abuses, deprivation from resources and services that associated with the menstruation throughout the life cycle of the menstruators. We like to call menstruators those who born with the uterus and ovaries. That means girls, women, trans men, and queer. We claim the menstrual discrimination is a form of sexual and gender-based violence. It is a violation of the human rights, and it has been practicing all around the globe with a different name, forms, and magnitude. Right now, we hear the stories from Canada, Zimbabwe, Pakistan, Nepal, and we have some kind of ignorance, silence, shyness, and somehow similar. So menstrual discrimination is a very complex and multifaceted. We cannot address by implementing a single project. Globally, there are more than 5,000 ways of calling menstruation. In Nepal, we called Panchine, MC, ladies problem. In Austria, some of my friends call ant flow or guest coming or something like that. And there is a silence because no one likes to talk directly about the menstruation. That is why they are looking for the different ways, vocabularies, nickname for the menstruation. And there is a silence at home, silence at school, silent at workplace, and everywhere. That means in policy, from UN to at the individual level. Silence leads for fear, ignorance, and eventually the menstruators compelled to live in undignified conditions. Since the time of Homo sapiens, we have a menstruation, and this universe is moving forward. We have so much advancement in science and technology, we proud, but we forget to proud. That is menstruation. If we go through the International Human Rights Instrument, since 1948, we have been talking about the dignity, but we forget to talk about the menstrual dignity, or we forget to acknowledge the menstrual discrimination is a form of human rights violation. And right now, globally, we are celebrating the Women's Rights Month. And in New York, in CSW, everyone re-examining their activities around CEDAW. And the CEDAW doesn't spell well about the menstrual discrimination again. Likewise, ICPD, Beijing Platform for Action, Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals, and even the youngest one, ILOC 190, the Decent Workplace. None of the International Human Rights Instrument talk about the menstrual dignity or acknowledge the menstrual discrimination that could be systematic impact or the symptomatic impact. None of the instrument talk about it. Likewise, globally, in New York and virtually, we have so many activists, so many NGOs which are working around the girls' right, women's right, girls' power, women empowerment, women in politics, women in peace building, menstruation. But again, there is no space. There is a very nominal space for the menstruation everywhere. Among the NGO workers, educators, activists, politicians, UN agencies, donors, academia, policymakers, media, everywhere. This is a very much neglected, overlooked agenda globally. Hence, if you got this book, this book is Dignified Menstruation, a Practical Handbook. These books explain about the testimonies from 20 countries, from Global South and Global North. This is available in online Amazon. I encourage you to grab this book, and you will get so many information about what kind of menstrual discrimination the global community has been practicing. If you don't trust us, there is evidences. And we have few more evidences. Let's hear from Ghana. In Ghana, during menstruation, the menstruators not allowed to cross the river or toss the water tap. In Burundi, Nigeria, South Sudan, these are the very tip of the iceberg. We cannot explain everything. They also restrict to wash and bath during the menstruation. Likewise, in Egypt, not allowed to eat the cassava bread. In Bangladesh, Nepal, not allowed to participate in religious and community activities where men mainly presented. And likewise in Argentina, they are not allowed to toss the fruits and not allowed to eat the fruits and flowers. And in Australia, UK and Canada, where we thought that these are the developed countries and they don't have an issue, as Oditi explained earlier from Canada, there is a taboo as well. There is a stigma, shyness, and menstruators don't like to go outside. That is why they deprived from education, sports, and other public activities. While we going through these all kind of restriction practices, taboos, and we need to think about the right to dignity, because right now, from yesterday, we all talk about the status of the women, and that means mostly the menstruators. And where is the dignity while they are in menstruating? Where is their right to food, right to participation, right to freedom? As we keep talking about the rights, and then in the other hand, they deserve these kind of rights as a fundamental rights, not only on the basis of International Human Rights Instrument, but also their national constitutions are rights. But we are not seeing at that level at. And let's put the same discrimination, try to put it the other way around to make it clear. While they are following these kind of restrictions during menstruation, their right to dignity, right to equality, right to freedom, right to non-discrimination, right to shelter, right to food, which are the fundamental rights, these rights are constantly violating. For others, for the non-menstruators or the policymakers or the stakeholders who don't like to talk about the menstruation, for them it may be the one action. Oh, this is just for the sake of the rest. Why should she need to go and toss the fruits or work in the kitchen or work in the farm? She has a rest, but this is not the single act. This is not the 1 week. This is the throughout the life cycle. If we count the menstruating days, it is about 8 years. And if we see the systematic impact, it has to go throughout the life cycle of the menstruators. So this is not the not a single act. It becomes very normalized, very ritualized because of the different kind of justification, different kinds of forms. This slide I always like to share. You can see up to the 6 to 9 years, depending on the context, the family context, the social context, political context, the girls feel safe, free, and equal. And when they know something about the menstruation, as we shared earlier, beginning of the session, then they start to feel themselves a little bit impure, a little bit insecure, inferior, powerlessness, disgusting, shock, numbness, crying, feeling of inferior, that kind of things they start to think. And then when they have post menstruation, they really sick, and the graph start to go down, and they are living with the feeling of inferior, powerlessness, hopelessness, disadvantage, inferior, and that goes and goes and goes throughout the life cycle of them. On the other hand, boys feel is a safe, free, and equal. When they learn something about the menstruation, they don't feel as like girls feel. And they constantly grow with the feeling of the pure, powerful, privileged, superior. And when they see someone menstruating at home, at school, at workplace, or somewhere in the community, this is a gentle reminder that, oh, I'm the powerful, I'm the privileged, I'm pure. I should not follow all kind of things. I should not take care of my blood. I should not go with the mood swing, something like that. So, and when they see their sisters or the colleagues have the post menstruation, again they will continue going in the same way. So this is how we socialized, but we don't think in that deeper level. This is, we come up through our research all around the globe. And if we compare these slides in the same slide, you can see the girls go very straight, and then when they have the menstruation, it start to go down. As friends Lisa from Zimbabwe shared, she also did not know, and ODT in Canada, she did not know. Pakistan, we don't know anything about it, and the boys graph is going on and on and on. And this is how there is a condition of the powerless and the powerful, privilege and disadvantage. That kind of things we need to understand. The menstrual, here we like to reiterate that the menstrual discrimination play a very much vital role to construct the power and patriarchy, and that perpetuate the different kinds of sexual and gender-based violence in a systemic and symptomatic manner. This is the example. While we call systemic, that means the women or those who born with the uterus and ovaries, they consider powerless, impure, and that goes throughout the life cycle. home to home. For example, if you don't believe, what is the underlying cause for the sex-related abortion? Usually we found this kind of practice in the global south. And in global north, why the gender pay gap is happening? Because women consider weak. And that has a connection with the menstruation. That could be the menstruating time or premenopause or menopause. It goes throughout the life cycles. And because of that kind of feeling, the consideration, the menstruators deprived from getting the equal treatment as boys or men throughout their life cycle. And that is why they cannot do the decision as their choice, whether it could be about their body or could be about the work or the family matters. It impacts not only the bodily autonomy, but also the overall decision-making process, including the politics or parliament. This is the example of the symptomatic impact. While menstruators have a menstruation, they have to wake up early in the morning and they have to compromise their time for doing the homework or managing the food. And they also, in some places, in some cultures, even their way of going to schools is different, because they are not allowed to go the same way, because there is some religious temples or religious people could be there, and they also limit themselves in schools for drinking the water, because of not having the water supply, not toilet, not other facilities for the emergency management for the menstrual blood. And in schools there is a silence, none of them, the school teachers, students, no one like to speak about it. I don't know whether you aware about it or not. In Kenya, in 2019, 14 years girls committed suicide when she was teased by her teacher and classmates in class, in school. So this is how the girls constantly experience the discrimination. And then it is 5 days in a month. That means 2 months in a year. And as a result, they stress out. They cannot concentrate on class or place, and often they complain the sickness, and sometimes fewer. Maybe the about 15% of the menstruators may have the moderate to severe types of premenstrual symptoms, and this is how they would have the no or low performance in school and activities, and eventually they leave the school or the work. This is how the overall education is impacted, and that means it impact in the economy, not only at the individual level, it goes in the national economy as well. In summary, between 6 to 9 years, the girls and boys knew something about the menstruation, as we shared in the beginning of our session. And between 6 to 12 years, they consider themselves, girls consider themselves as a dirty, impure, powerlessness, hopelessness, inferior, and whereas the boys consider themselves as a pure, powerful, privileged, and superior. As a result, it constructs the power and patriarchy, and then that perpetuates the different kinds of violence at home, at school, at workplace, and everywhere. And through this platform, we challenge to UN. UN says 1 in 3 women experience the sexual and gender-based violence, but we say the UN doesn't acknowledge the menstrual discrimination as a form of violence. That is why this data is wrong. And in this background, the solution is dignified menstruation. Dignified menstruation is free from any kind of menstrual discrimination for the life cycle. There is no any excuses, either menstruators, whether menstruators in ICU or pandemic or earthquake in Turkey, Syria right now, or any kind of conditions. There is no excuses. Because we cannot imagine the place without the menstruators. That is why there is no any excuses to compromise the quality of the dignified menstruation. Dignified menstruation is all about changing the narratives from impurity to purity, hygiene to dignity, 5 days bleeding to throughout the life cycle approach. And many consider that it is a woman's issue or private business. No, this is the political and everyone business, because it is a human right concern. And dignified menstruation is an innovative tool for the gender equality. Till now, the gender equality and social inclusion policy, or JC policy, globally, they don't address the menstrual discrimination. That is why this is the missing agenda. And for the JC, the tangible JC, we need to include the dignified menstruation, and those who are working as a sectoral level, like education or environment or health. This is the frame for the dignified menstruation. And then those who are working directly for the human rights, women's rights, girls' rights, health, disability, and education, they need to put the dignified menstruation as a priority. And those who are working around agriculture, infrastructure, home law, forestry, for this kind of friends and organization, the dignified menstruation should be the cross-cutting issue. For gender equality, dignified menstruation is a holistic and innovative approach to achieve the overarching goal of gender equality, which we all have been looking for decades. And challenges, we started the Global South Coalition since 2019. Since then, we have been working right now we have been working more than 56 countries, and we are working on zero funding. That is why our work, especially around research, evidence-based advocacy, capacity building, and publication, are heavily compromised, even though we have been trying our best through the online surveys and other means. And we see the fear everywhere, the fear at the name of the religion, at the name of the culture, at the name of the tradition. Oh, this is our religious things. I don't like to hurt to my parents. They are already ages, and I don't like to hurt them. For the sake of my family, for the sake of my community honor, I like to continue this. Personally, I don't have any problem, but at home, I'm practicing that kind of stories we keep hearing from all around the globe, Sierra Leone to Austria, Canada to Australia, New Zealand, everywhere the menstrual discrimination is practicing. And those who are working around the human rights, working around the development, working around the feminism, they also have the resistance. They don't like to openly talk about the urgency of the dignified menstruation, and also they don't like to go beyond the infrastructure or hygiene or the charity work. Because distributing the menstrual pad is easy, technically, temporarily technical fixation, and it is tangible, and it is easier to take the photographs and raising the fund as well. That is why everyone focusing on that kind of approach instead of addressing the very underlying cause of menstrual discrimination. And we constantly, those who are working for dignified menstruation, in my personal level, as a pioneer, I have experienced all kind of threat in my life, including life-killing threat. And my colleagues, they are excluded, they are not getting the fund, they are not invited in a program, and they are excluded in WhatsApp, Facebook chat. So this is how we are facing so much challenges, and that is why this is a very high time. We all have to work together to live ourselves as a dignified manner, and let our daughters and granddaughters to live with the dignity. I speak a lot. Let's watch this short video, and then we will continue our presentation. Thank you so much. Keep watching. Coming. Lal?
Since 1948, globally, we have been talking about the dignity of human right, but we never ever talk about the menstrual dignity or menstrual discrimination is a violation of the human right. So, dignified menstruation is a call to everyone to change the narratives on human rights, peace, women empowerment, and overarching goal of gender equality.
The girls are expressing on their face about the menstrual stigma, like they are have to sit along the sides of house for 5 days, 4 days.
Menstrual discrimination is an umbrella term that refers the taboos, stigma, shyness, restriction, abuses, violences, and deprivation of the resources that associated with menstrual practices.
The tools that we use during the training on dignified menstruation are giant puppets. They are 3.6 meters tall. We also invited all the talents of the participants. One brought poetry, another brought song, another brought story.
So the menstruation is regarded as a impure, and also practicing the menstrual taboos as a cultural tradition. And the people around the circle are talking about the menstrual discrimination
Of the participants.
Unfortunately, it has been
regarded as a
practicing
impure and
across
also
the globe
menstrual
with
taboos
different
as a
names,
cultural tradition. And the
forms,
people
and
around the
magnitudes.
circle are talking about the menstrual
It
discrimination
constructs
Of the participants.
the power
One
it has been and patriarchy that perpetrate institutionalized gender-based violence in magnitude.
how working with young people age 6 to 9 in schools, at home, and having our parents begin to speak about the importance of dignified menstruation right when people are young, because that's when gender roles are defined. And so by redefining gender roles through this methodology of dignified menstruation, then there's the potential of changing the future. So the giant puppets are a tool. They create spectacle. They call people in. And they certainly did that at the market and at the elementary school that we visited. Dignified menstruation is looking at menstruation and menstrual blood as a source of life, not something impure, but something that is part of the creation of each and every one of us.
Right after our puppet show, I interacted with the different kinds of people like women leaders, seniors, priests, um, truck drivers, tempo drivers, media persons, and other young people. And they all deeply realize the essence of dialogue on dignified menstruation. They have a deep feeling, oh, no one talking about it. The menstrual discrimination is practicing everywhere at every family, and they were living under this deep suffocation, and they don't have a voice, they don't have a courage to speak, And the senior women expressed, these men, they grown up in our lap with our clothes, but they never ever touch our clothes, and they never ever allowed to touch when we are in menstruation. And in schools, we perform the puppet show in two schools. One is high school, the other one is the primary schools, and there were other and they understood the essence. They understood the link of menstrual discriminatory practice at home, at school, and the early child marriage and sexual abuse at home, at schools, at community, and they are really committed to end such discriminatory menstrual practice. And we also interacted with the young children, and then when they knew about the menstrual blood is pure, and the menstrual blood is the source of existence of all human being, and they are so enlightened, they are so cheer up, and we can read their faces how much they smile and happy and proud, and talking openly about the menstruation in front of their parents, teachers, the school management committee, and everyone. And that is so much inspiring for me and very powerful.
Thank you so much, Lal, for showing the video. Now, I would like to invite Savitri. Savitri is a coordinator of biodegradable menstrual pad factory, and she will be speaking in Nepali, and Swapna will translate in English, and I hope you will enjoy.
नमस्कार, म सावित्री भण्डारी, न्यायका लागि सक्रिय महिला मञ्च र मितेरी जैविक प्याड उत्पादन केन्द्र चितवनको अध्यक्ष।
Hello everyone, it's Ms. Savitri Bhandari, a chairperson of Active Women Forum for Justice and Miteri Biodegradable Pad Center.
हामीले अक्टोबर 13 देखि 2022 सम्म चाहिँ 16 तारिखसम्म चाहिँ भरतपुरको चितवनमा 4 दिने पपेट वर्कसप आयोजना गरेका थियौं, जसमा चाहिँ 15 जना सहभागी 28 जना सहभागी हुनुहुन्थ्यो। त्यसमा सबै जातिका महिलाहरू, विशेषतः युवा महिलाहरू र कुनै पनि अवसरबाट चाहिँ तालिममा अहिलेसम्म अवसर नपाएका महिलाहरू सहभागी हुनुहुन्थ्यो र त्यो यो तालिमको चाहिँ नारा अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय चौथो मर्यादित महिनावारीको नारा बाल विवाह अन्त्यको लागि मर्यादित महिनावारी भन्ने नारा थियो र त्यसलाई चाहिँ मुख्य केन्द्रमा राखेर चाहिँ कार्यक्रम सञ्चालन गरिएको थियो।
Giant Puppet Workshop was organized in Bharatpur, Chitwan from October 13, 2022 to October 16, where altogether 28 participants participated in the workshop. The participants of the workshop are those women who had never get an opportunity to participate in a training. The workshop was designed by considering the slogan of 4th International Day of Dignified Menstruation, which was Dignified Menstruation for Ending Child Marriage.
वर्कसपका उपलब्धिहरू एचिभमेन्टहरू चाहिँ निम्न अनुसार थिए। अब सहभागीहरूले चाहिँ त्यो छलफलपछि आफ्नै घरमा पनि मेन्सुरेसनको विभेद गर्न चाहिँ छाडेका थिए यो कुरा चाहिँ यसको मर्म बुझेका थिए। त्यसपछि घर परिवारमा नै समूहले महिनावारीको विषयमा आफूले छलफल गर्न सुरु गरेका थिए।
The achievement of the workshop where participants understood the concept of the menstrual discrimination and the urgency of dignified menstruation. They replicate this notion in their behavior as well. They started the conversation at their home. The conversation with their friends at school, child clubs, and the women group is happening now.
अब यो वर्कसपमा सहभागी भइसकेपछि सहभागीहरूले चाहिँ मर्यादित महिनावारी भनेको के हो भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ राम्रोसँग चाहिँ उनीहरूले बुझेका छन् र त्यो पनि व्यवहारमा लागू गर्न पनि सुरु गरेका छन्। त्यस्तै त्यो आफूले बुझेका कुरा चाहिँ घर परिवारमा अनि आफ्नो समूहभित्र महिला समूहभित्र आफ्ना साथीसँग विषयमा छलफल गर्न चाहिँ सुरु गरिसकेका छन्।
Participants understood the concept of menstrual discrimination and the urgency of dignified menstruation. They replicate this notion in their behavior as well. The conversation was started at their home.
त्यस्तै अर्को उपलब्धि छ त्यो सहभागी हुने बालबालिकाहरूले चाहिँ आफ्ना चाहिँ उमेरका साथीहरूसँग अब गाउँका साथीहरूसँग स्कुलका साथीहरूसँग पनि मर्यादित महिनावारीको विषयमा चाहिँ छलफल सुरु गरेका छन्। स्कुलमा सरहरूसँग पनि छलफल सुरु गरेका छन् र महिनावारी विभेदका अभ्यासहरू पनि आफूले चाहिँ गर्न छाडेका ती कुराहरू चाहिँ घर परिवारमा नै भन्ने, आफूले पनि विभेदहरू चाहिँ नगर्ने र नमान्ने पुराना चलनहरूलाई चाहिँ बिस्तारै आफैबाट हटाउन सुरु गरेका छन्।
The conversation with their friend at school, at child club, and women's group is happening. They started to advocate on the dignified menstruation, and in order to dismantle the menstrual practices leading to discrimination are discontinued after participating on this training.
सिकाइ चुनौतीहरू अब यस्ता छलफलहरूमा चाहिँ महिलाहरूलाई मात्रै सहभागी नबनाइकन घर र समाजका निर्णयकर्ताहरूलाई पनि सहभागी बनायो भने मात्रै उनीहरू सक्रिय हुँदा रहेछन्, होइन भने उल्टो उनीहरू विरोधमा उत्रिने रहेछन् भन्ने लाग्छ। अर्को चाहिँ यो प्रक्रियागत रूपमा चाहिँ लामो समय लाग्छ, हामीले क्याम्पेन धेरै गर्न जरुरी छ। र अर्को चाहिँ पपेट जस्तै विभिन्न विधिहरू अपनायो भनेदेखि बालबालिका र प्रौढहरूलाई चाहिँ हामीले सजिलोसँग चाहिँ एजुकेट गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने चाहिँ हाम्रो सिकाइ रह्यो।
The learning and challenges of the workshop are silence of the decision maker. It is a time-consuming process. Use of prompt like puppet is an effective tool to convey messages at the community level.
यो वर्कसप पछि चाहिँ हामी निम्न अनुसारका चाहिँ हामीले योजना बनाएका छौँ। हामीले स्थानीय निकायको विशेष स्थानीय निकायको चाहिँ कोअर्डिनेसनमा चाहिँ स्कुल तथा मर्यादित महिनावारी स्कुल तथा समाजमा चाहिँ मर्यादित महिनावारी बारे चाहिँ छलफल गर्ने, स्थानीय निकायहरूसँगको चाहिँ समन्वयमा विभिन्न अरू सचेतना र प्याड उत्पादन जैविक प्याड सचेतना कार्यक्रमहरू गर्ने, स्कुल तथा कलेजहरूमा चाहिँ हामीले यो पपेटहरू प्रदर्शन गर्ने अनि मर्यादित महिनावारीको लागि नमुना ओडा चाहिँ निर्माण गर्ने र जैविक प्याडको प्रयोग गर्ने र सबैलाई जैविक प्याडको प्रयोग गरौँ भनेर पनि हामीले अभियान सञ्चालन गर्ने।
The planning after the training was interaction on dignified menstruation at school and colleges, coordination and collaboration with local government for the continuation of the campaign, puppet show at the school and colleges, formation of dignified menstruation friendly wards and offices, increase interaction on the importance of the biodegradable one, and encourage everyone to use the biodegradable pads.
अन्त्यमा सबै यो कार्यक्रम सञ्चालन गर्नुहुने सबै साथीहरूलाई चाहिँ संस्थाहरूलाई चाहिँ धन्यवाद। विशेषतः ओडिटी र ओडिटीको संस्था, राधा पौडेल फाउन्डेसन र राधा पौडेल यो गाउँसम्म चाहिँ कार्यक्रम ल्याएर आयोजना गरेर चाहिँ सहभागी हुनुभयो। त्यो विशेष महिनावारी मर्यादित महिनावारी गीतको लागि शरद हाम्रो सल्लाहकार शरद पौडेल र डिग्निफाइड मेन्सुरेसन नेटवर्कको तर्फबाट चाहिँ समीर परियार, पुनम कुँवर र सबै समुदायहरूलाई हामी विशेष धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छौँ। सबैलाई चाहिँ 8 मार्चको शुभकामना दिन पनि चाहन्छौँ। र सबैलाई जैविक प्याड प्रयोग गरौँ भनेर आह्वान पनि गर्न चाहन्छौँ। मर्यादित महिनावारी बनाऊ भन्ने आह्वान गर्न चाहन्छौँ। हस्, धन्यवाद। नमस्ते।
I would like to thank you all the team of the puppet show, including ODT and her mutual production, Radha Paudel Foundation, and the Samir Pariyar and Poonam Kumar from the Dignified Menstruation Campaign Nepal. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation here with first suggesting everyone to use the biodegradable pad. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Savitri and Sapna. It was really amazing to hear the voices from very from bottom of the Global South. And now I would like to invite the very vibrant male champion for dignified menstruation and coordinator of Dignified Menstruation Campaign Nepal, Samir Pariyar. Please welcome to him.
Thank you so much, Radha ma'am. Namaste to everyone. I am Samir Pariyar from Nepal, coordinator of Dignified Menstruation Campaign Nepal, in working on the dignified menstruation since last 4 years. At first, I would like to welcome everyone. It's a very important conversation we are having on the discussion of kind puppets for dignified menstruation.
Excuse me,
In the
Samir.
month of October 13 to
Samir?
16.
Can you make the slideshow, please?
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
My slide is seen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In the month of October 13 to 16, we are having a historical event in Nepal, that is Gain Puppets for Dignified Menstruation. And we have organized the Gain Puppet at Bharatpur 18 with the organizing of Radha Paudel Foundation, Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, Mutual Production, and in the support of Dignified Menstruation Campaign Nepal, Gift for Girls Campaign, and Jaivik Biodegradable Pad. On behalf of Dignified Menstruation Campaign Nepal, I got the opportunity to be the part of the historical events in 15. We are having the 15 participants. Among 15, there were 3 male participants, and among them, I'm the one of the male participant in that event from Dignified Menstruation Campaign Nepal. As you have already seen, the GAN puppets. What is the GAN puppet? It is the one of the best tool for doing the advocacy of the dignified menstruation. Since moving onwards, I have joined the workshop with the following objectives: to learn about the kind puppets, to explore the menstrual practice of the Bharatpur Athens, and to promote the dignified menstruation, because I'm working as a dignified menstruation Nepal campaign coordinator, and to learn how grand puppets advocate for the dignified menstruation for ending the child marriage, and also to make the network for dignified menstruation. Moving onward, I'm living in Lumbini province and I have to travel to the Bagmati province. I'm sharing you the experience. From Sunol to the program event place, I have to move 6 hours traveling. And from Sunol to Narangad, I have traveled in a local bus around 5 hours. Then after from Narangad to Bharatpur 18, I travel in a small vehicle that almost 13 minutes. And from Bharatpur 18 to Pad Factory, I walk around 30 minutes and I reach to the program events. And I'm sharing my experience. The place was so simple, and we are staying in a pad factory. As you have already listened to Savitri, she is the chairperson of Joybig Biodegradable Pad, where we were staying in the pad factory. And during the whole workshop was conducted in the pad factory, which is so great. And while we are staying in that place, we have local food, we prepare ourselves, and we serve to people ourselves. As I'm sharing what was my role in the workshop. In the workshop, I'm doing the co-facilitator with ODT. ODT is doing the facilitating of the kind puppets, and in that workshop, I'm doing the facilitation of dignified menstruation, and also I'm doing the interpreter, because the participants were from the local area, and they are all from the local area, and they were unaware of the international language, that is English. So I'm doing the interpreter and also overall management of the workshop. And behind that on show, I'm I'm making the video for TikTok because in 21st century, TikTok is one of the biggest platform for making the people aware and also for doing the advocacy. And also I'm making the blog, and also we are making the short video, and we are posting on the social media. In social media, many people are so concerned and they are having the queries. What was that? What was the program you are conducted at Bharatpur 18? And we want to be the part of that program. And like that, many queries were in the chat box, in the comment box, and in the social media platform. Because this is the first time in the history in Nepal, the puppet is doing the advocacy for the dignified menstruation, for ending the child marriage, and also for making the people concerned about the dignified menstruation. Moving onward, before the workshop, we are having the discussion with the participant. Participants feel very awkward to tell about the menstruation story. They feel so very shy, and also people do not want to pay attention to the topic matters because people were from various background, and also they are having the menstrual practice, so they are feel so awkward and they do not want to attention towards the topic matter. Moving onward, what I learned from the workshop, I learned about the gain puppets. What were the gain puppets? I just only thought the gain puppets about in Nepali Putla. But after that, I thought I get knowledge about what were the GAN puppets, how we can make the GAN puppets, and how to create a story. Previously, I just only create the story in paper, and we will just make the history drama. But after that, I learned how to create story, poems, songs, and also how to connect the story, poem, songs with the GAN puppets for doing the advocacy of dignified menstruation. After the workshop, a participant can easily create a story and tell it at so school and community confidently with the help of puppets. Before workshop, people are feeling so awkward to tell about the story. But during and after the workshop, people were feeling so easy and confident to tell their menstruation story with the smile on their face, which is so great. Participants are inviting their family members and relatives to watch show and learn new practices. Uh, as I have said to all of you, before the workshop, people are feeling so awkward. But after the workshop, people are inviting their family members to watch the show to learn how we can do the advocacy regarding the dignified menstruation to end all form of menstruation taboos from the family, from the society, from everywhere. And also, puppets catch the people attention. And we are not inviting any people on the community in the school. Come and watch our exhibition, our show. People are coming without any invitation because the puppet is one of the best media to attend people towards it. So we use the video and poster for advocacy. After that, we have made the videos and we have made the poster of the puppets in connection to dignified menstruation, which we are posting the social media of dignified menstruation campaign Nepal page, Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, Radha Paudel Foundation, and mutual production page. We have posted over the page, and the people are having there, and people are doing the advocacy. People are concerning on the topic and asking the various queries. So it is helping for the doing the advocacy. This is a picture of doing the exhibition of can puppet for dignified menstruation in community level in Bharatpur 18 Chitawan. People are coming the chowk where the traffic vehicles are moving. So people are coming and watching the exhibition, and people are feeling so happy. You can see in the picture, people are clapping where the kind puppets are dancing in the song about the dignified menstruation. And this is the picture of school where the students are listening so carefully about the dignified menstruation with the help of kind puppets. Moving onward, at the conclusion, with the help of puppets, people feel so easy to understand about the problem, about the dignified menstruation, about human rights violence, about everything regarding the problems. And it is a tool for breaking the silence on menstruation. Because previously people are not talking about the menstruation, and they only thought that the menstruation is the topic of science. But after this workshop, they thought that science must be breakdown with the help of guide puppets. And guide puppets is the best way or tool for doing the advocacy for dignified menstruation. At last, I want to say thank you to the organizing team for giving the opportunity to have the conversation about the dignified menstruation in connection with guide puppets at UN NGO CSW-67. And also I want to appeal from here to United Nations to endorse the dignified menstruation, because UN is doing the work to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2000 by 2030. Without working on dignified menstruation, it is impossible to achieve the sustainable goals, child rights, human rights, and every right regarding to the humans. It is impossible to achieve without working on dignified menstruation. So at last, I would like to appeal to United Nations to endorse the dignified menstruation. And also, thank you everyone for giving the opportunity and time. Thank you so much. Let's unite together for making dignified menstruation friendly society, country, nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samir. It's a very enlightening presentation. And now we will hear from Poonam Kumar. She is the coordinator of Git for Girls. And she's a poet as well. And be ready for her poems.
Thank you, Radha ma'am. Hello and namaste to all. Myself, Poonam Kaur from Nepal. Currently, I'm working as a program coordinator at Guitar Girls campaign since 2020 on dignified menstruation. First of all, I would like to thank for giving me an opportunity to be a part of puppet training, and as well as for giving me a chance to share my experience in this wonderful platform. My respected previous speaker said a lot about experience, training, and their experience. Here, I pointed out, please next slide. Next one. Here, I pointed out my summary of my experience. First, expectation, learning and experience, and last, outcome. Next, please. At expectation. Next slide. Expectation. From the day I heard about puppet training, I had so many confusion in my head because before I never heard about puppet in my real life. For the very first time, I got chance to be a part of puppet training along with dignified menstruation. The main question in my head was, how can we demonstrate those puppet with the dignified menstruation, with menstrual discrimination in society? And second one is learning and experience. After all those expectations and confusion, finally I reached the training location, which is Nepal's first biodegradable pad factory, called as Miteri Biodegradable Pad Factory. We stayed there for 4 days with our Savitri ma'am. That was my first experience staying in local homestay, which gives me a more confident and home-friendly environment to explore my ideas and to learn more with other participants from that local areas. With the best guidance by our ODT ma'am, we learned to join those outlets or parts of those puppet to give them a final look. We separated in a small group who works on fitting those outlets, who works on making dramas, writing stories, who works on making dresses and ornaments for puppet, who works on giving voices for puppet, who stands inside the puppet holding those heavy outlets, and so on. Listening those all participants, listening those all women who had to face a lot of menstrual discrimination during their menstruation gives me a motivation and inspiration to work on dignified menstruation. At last, in outcome, for me the whole session is about a confident. It gives me a confidence to speak about my menstruation, to confident to say no to child marriage, to say no to menstrual discrimination, and to work on dignified menstruation, to make dignified menstruation friendly society, country, world, respectively. And for me, the another outcome is knowledge. Obviously, I learn about the puppet, I learn about the joining those outlets, I learn about the making a story, listening by our own, and I know about the how to demonstrate those puppets with dignified menstruation. Moving towards the next slide. Here is the activities which we did at training. The first activity is a story. All the participants shares about their first menstruation and their experience. You can see in this picture. At second, this is me. Poetry. I wrote a poem about which represents the menstrual discrimination in my local areas, in Nepal, and in everywhere. At last, we can see a man. He is a participant of our training. Mr. Soros wrote a whole song regarding dignified menstruation, and we used to sing this song beginning at the session and ending at the session, which gives us inspiration, motivation, with this to start our session with the new energy. Moving towards the next slide, it's about exhibition day. At first, we demonstrate our puppet at local market around the people from the local and crowded market. And then another part, after that exhibition, we exhibit our show at a school around those curious and energetic eyes of children. As I already mentioned, we all had different work responsibilities. All the participants and organizers did excellent job. In my next slide, I mention about my conclusion. I feel so confident when I deliver my poem about menstrual discrimination with the help of puppet. Even at that crowded local market, everyone was listening me. Everyone was watching those movement of puppets. That was giving me a more inspiration and more confidence. You can see in this picture, I have put the screenshots which Radha from the Facebook page of Radha Paudel ma'am. We posted the poem video clip of my poem and we got 2.9K views. And another conclusion, the methodology connects people and spread messages, build confidence and motivate. At last, for me, the journey from training to exhibition, it's all about confidence. It's all about confidence and motivation, which will guide me in future to work on dignified menstruation forever and forever. Thank you. That's my time. Thank you for listening me.
Thank you so much, Poonam. She's amazing. And you can see how does the Global South Coalition is practicing the intersectionality, inclusion from Global North to Global South, and young, elder, male, female, and everyone. And now is the time to hear from Aditi, our amazing resource person for Giant Puppet Show. Please, Aditi, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen here. Perfect. Oh, I'm just sitting here with my heart bursting, listening to my co-facilitators, the leads, and knowing that you're all here to learn more about dignified menstruation. And I'm going to focus a bit on giant puppets. And my intention here is to invite you, the listeners who have chosen to spend time with us, to think about what are these tools and how might they be useful to me, both if you choose to do a campaign on dignified menstruation or if you choose in your life to create a performance presentation. Now I seem to be in a screen that doesn't, oh yeah, this is different. Here we go. So a lot of these things were said. I'll go fairly quickly and then I'll touch in on things that weren't said. So yes, we did our workshop in 2022. Thank you to the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation and of course to Radha. My name is Odette. My background is I have an MEd in Community Leadership and Adult Learning. I'm the founder of Mutual Productions, a filmmaker. And what you wouldn't know is that I presently work as the Community Care and Home Hospice Coordinator for People for a Healthy Community on Gabriola, which is a tiny island on the west coast of Canada. The focus of my piece is going to be creatives for the Sustainable Development Goals. Artists, I believe, are the messengers for the messages. Some recent engagements, of course, the NGO CSW. The 2021 was the UN Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development. That was important to me. We've had the Generation Equality Forum, both in Mexico and Paris. I was able to attend online as a media delegate. The Arts and SDGs Festival. And what you may not know is that Radha and I met at Women Deliver. And there was an instant spark, and I will talk a little bit more about that as we go along. The puppet on the left is a paper mache puppet. So when you're thinking about this possibility of working with puppets, please know that you can learn to work with bending PVC, or you can do paper mache puppets in all sizes and shapes, and they will draw the same crowd. For me, puppetry started with this little puppet here. Her name is Madge, and I was still living on the traditional territories of the Nanaimo First Nation, where I am now. Madge's story, she's a mermaid, and her story is based in sexualized violence. Long, long ago, she and the other mermaids placed their vaginas in oyster shells to keep them safe. So in that example, we're using a metaphor around sexualized violence, and this started for me in 1997. Then things got bigger. So here you see the form of the giant puppet, the head. You see Vic. PVC pipe can be bent in simmering water. And in the outfit, down the center of the blue, that's where the puppeteer sees from. It's obviously built on an external frame backpack, or you can build your own pack. I put this in for fun because the puppets got bigger and they began to float. This is called Swan Lake, a twisted telling. As the lead in Swan Lake, Tchaikovsky's ballet, is Odette, and I wasn't particularly fond of that story, so I feel it is fine for artists to take on stories and myths and ways we are told to be in the world and retell them. Why not? And create beauty. I think that's the key. Some of this subject matter was challenging. Make it beautiful. People will come and they will go home and think about things and talk about things. Some of the international projects I've been involved in before Nepal have been in Eswatini, formerly Swaziland, Guatemala, Honduras, Suriname, and here in Canada. These particular projects were focused on awareness around HIV and AIDS and engagement in community, using very similar methodologies to those you've just heard about. I have to acknowledge this partnership and something special. This is Radha, and in this particular picture, she is being acknowledged as she's receiving the first doctorate anywhere in the world focused on dignified menstruation. We are in Kathmandu, Nepal this year. Congratulations, Radha. Congratulations. This is a little bit of the background and methodology, so you have an insight into what and why. I believe we're doing innovative arts-based program to engage community and impact all. And there we are in Nepal at the market. What does artists, the messengers for the messages mean? We work through the collaborative development of storylines. We look into environmental, social, political, economic, and gender issues. And the intention is to foster awareness and action locally and globally. It's accomplished through projects with community members. And you've heard a number of those listed. Young people, elders, non-governmental organizations, governments, universities, colleges, schools, faith-based, media, business, cultural leads, and creative professionals. I want you to think when you hear Savitri speaking in Nepali that she was the person that would have had to go to the municipality and say, can you please send us some officers to protect us from traffic? Can we have permission, please, to come? She would have gone to the school and to speak with the principal and the regional leads to say, may we have permission? I want to acknowledge that as well, because for me to do that in Canada would take months, and she did it in days. So that would be, I think, a prime example of how people pick up ideas and run with it and encourage others to move and engage. There we are, Savitri, Samir, and myself. We'd sit together in the morning, and we talk about what was going to happen during the day. They are the leaders in Dignified Menstruation. They're obviously profound knowledge of their own culture. I bring a tool and some artistic tools and exercises. You can't believe how much trust has to be developed almost instantaneously. We're sitting, perhaps this is the first day, there's a bunch of people that none of us know except Savitri, and we're going to engage in some very deep and sometimes difficult topics. So I think the others spoke to what's written there. I've used some of that developmental language, should you ever want to use this language when you're writing the grant application, capacity building, skill development, popular education and participatory theater techniques. Perhaps I'll mention that. If you want to look into it, check out the work of Augusto Boal, who's a Brazilian, David Diamond, a Canadian, and Lina de Guevara, a Canadian originally from Chile. There's the participants. And another little background piece of information, a number of these women were also interested in perhaps there will be future employment in a pad factory. And I think linking those many things to a very important theme and issue, dignified menstruation, to a learning practice, and to how that may impact them in the future, and also the bonds between them. Yep. Sorry. I'm not going to go over this. I put it in because I thought some of you may want to really have some detail of what we looked into, but essentially we'd have an opening activity, and then either Savitri, Samir, or Poonam would speak about dignified menstruation the first day, ending child marriage the second day. The third, we had rehearsals. Something important happened at the end of the third day, and that was that we met with Radha, and she really brought us back to much of what we have to look to is the underpinning of the Dignified Menstruation campaign, which is looking at human rights, which is looking at dignity, and which is looking at gender-based violence, and how gender roles are put into place when children are 6 to 9 years age, and hence really addressing how we can use these methodologies to talk to very young people as well as the adults and the older adults that they engage with and learn from. Some of the outcomes, we were invited for a radio interview. Samir and I sat, and he did his first round of learning how to do video production, the actual editing. And maybe what's most important in this was one exercise where the invitation was, what are your talents? And I remember Poonam sitting beside me, it might have been the next morning, and saying, I'm a poet. She said it shyly, and look what she just offered you. My heart bursts, so I'm going to have to go to the next slide. And who else was there? Savitri invited the Women for Justice Committee and also members of local government. The center picture is all of us and a number of older women who were Santee devotees. And this was sweet. We went, Radha and her sister and I went to the neighbor's house and chatted with her and got to know her a little bit and told her what we were doing. And she said, oh, yes, I will invite my friends. We will come tomorrow. So that was for me very heartwarming, particularly because I now work with a lot of older people. And to the right, I also had the honor of staying in community. I stayed with Usa, who is Radha's sister, and there we are with also Thakur and Bindi. And so, you know, it's not just what happens in that little room in a workshop. It's many, many people being touched. And of course, thank you to Sapna, who you saw doing the interpretation for Savitri, and who is also an extraordinary administrator. That's another piece of the puzzle that sometimes doesn't get mentioned, but without having all of that in place, none of this happens. You know, Lal is with us. He's holding all the technology. How much of social media is about somebody being very good at the technologies? And we haven't met her here, but in this photo is Rinku, who kindly met me at the airport and then told me her story, which personally gave me some sense of how to enter the work that we were doing. And then was my greatest teacher when I returned to Kathmandu and learned more about Nepal, because we had so much fun together. This project, some of the financial contribution is from the Canada Council for the Arts, as they kindly offered me an artist residency after I had applied to work with Radha. Outreach, we've talked about that, radio and video production. And what is next? I'm asking you that question, you, those that are listening, you, those that have been engaged. Perhaps performances, presentation, or tech for ed, but also how can you incorporate what we've shared as activists, as advocates, as artists, as community members? I'm just going to take a couple of minutes for some vocabulary around the methodology for those that for those to whom that is helpful. What we were really doing is leadership training. Yep, it's arts, but it's leadership training. What are some of the outcomes? What's the skills development? I mean, it depends on the person, but given that we worked so cooperatively while sitting with the entire group at the pad factory, for example, you know, where will we go? How will we perform? Or schools, which days? And so a lot of these skills were incorporated throughout the group. Some were particularly with leadership, but many weren't. So community engagement, socio-political analysis, protocols for inviting guest speakers, project timelines, budget, promotion, social media, event venue selection, preparation, public speaking, organizational skills, logistics, and transportation. On the art side, story creation, script writing, puppet construction, mask making, we didn't do here, but it's a fun thing to do. Acting, songwriting, music performance, video production, and distribution. Why the SDGs in the arts? Why this work in particular and the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation? We turn the mundane into magic. We renew myth-making. The work is visually stunning. We employ multiple arts, develop analytical skills, break with the printed word, can present in local languages, engage emotion and reason, offer powerful spectacle, can be high-tech and low-tech, taken out to the world through social media. We invite new audiences, and I think most importantly, we create new knowledge. So the story we did, our particular play, a daughter and her father. The daughter goes to her father to say, Dad, I want to talk to you about dignified menstruation. He looks at her and he says, I want to talk to you about that I would like your daughter to be married. And his daughter's astounded. He says, Dad, my daughter's only a child. And he says, yes, but when you were a child, I wanted you to marry and you would not. And that brought dishonor onto our family. So now your child will be married. And the daughter proceeds with a panoply of arguments on why she is a child. She must mature to be a woman. Education is important for her to thrive and also for her family to thrive. How can she be mature in her relationship and with her children if she marries as a child? And Dad, child marriage is now illegal in Nepal. So you can imagine, from the small child to the older women and men, watching this play and listening. And then eventually the father agrees and he puts his hand on his daughter's shoulder and the daughter says, Dad, today I am menstruating. We have just broken a very important menstrual taboo. You have touched me. This is a taboo. And let's please work together to change many of these taboos and to enter a time of dignified menstruation. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for the sharing on dignified menstruation through the life cycle. Thank you for each of you. There is our contact information. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much, Oditi. Actually, the time is already over. We have to be here till 9:15, but this is the Zoom link we created. That is we can continue our discussion next 10 minutes. Before opening the floor for question answer, I like to share few information. Please visit our website, dignifiedmission.org. You can get the research reports from our side and also the information about the menstrual discrimination all around the globe. And please follow us in YouTube channel. We have a Dignified Menstruation YouTube channel and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And you also will get the books in Amazon.com. 2 books available in all about the dignified menstruation. And 8th March, we'll have another session, Dignified Menstruation Technology Matters, where we'll be speaking from USA to Nepal. That means global north and global south. And every fortnightly, we will be conducting the webinars. We encourage you to follow us. And if you could not make the live webinar, you can have that information in YouTube channel as well. And if any of you like to invite us as a speaker, we are happy to contribute as a speaker, as a researcher, as a writer, as a contributor, whatever you need all about the dignified mission. Please unmute yourself and share your experience, comments, or questions, whatever you have. We can go next 10 minutes. Since there is no questions, no comments, no feedbacks.
Yeah. I have copied one questions. It was written by Govinda Khadka in a chat box. Seems like it moves upward as various information were there. And his question was, why hasn't the United Nations made menstruation a humanitarian issue or human right issue?
We didn't have an answer. We have already keep challenging to the UN and the other stakeholders that the menstrual discrimination is a violation of the human right, and it should be the priority for all kind of human right instrument and all the NGOs, academia, the donors, UN, everyone has to work around dignified menstruation, because we cannot imagine the place without the menstruators, no matter where we are. So we also have the same kind of feeling. Thank you, Govindaji. Thank you so much, Anna. We really encouraged from your comments. Actually, we have so many stories to tell. And in my case, personally, I spent more than 3 decades and struggling a lot, and also learning a lot about the dignified menstruation due to time limitation. And we try to focus on the technology and the giant puppet show towards the dignified menstruation. And particularly it was the event from last year, and last year was focused on dignified menstruation for ending child marriage. So whatever we have, even for the giant puppet, so we cannot tell everything. Thank you so much. We are so humbled. And if any of my colleagues, the speakers like to speak, please raise your hand and speak. Feel free to speak. I'm just facilitating the process.
This was really incredible. Thank you so much for this. It's such a huge topic, and it's so important to do it in this way. And I'm just curious if, especially with these giant puppets, I'm in theatre as well. I do a lot of applied performance and a lot with giant puppetry. And I'm curious if if you've encountered any sort of challenges in terms of taking the puppets into specific public spaces, and if that has impacted what the puppet design might look like as well. Thank you.
Polity, please.
Thank you for your question. As far as taking them into public places and getting permissions, I've been really fortunate that I've always worked with NGOs in the community where we're doing the work. So they are local NGOs. I'm not an outside production company bringing a production. And therefore, it has always been a respected member of the community who's asked for us to present in the public space or in the school or in the university. And in that way, because there's that trust and connection, as there was with Savitri in this case, and through Radha, who's very respected in Nepal, I learn more and more, that opened those doors for us. Technically, I have to say my worst fear was that the puppets, because these ones I pre-constructed, sometimes we construct them in place, but that they actually got there on the plane. They come apart, they fit in suit bags. And really the team on that first afternoon with the A's and B's and how to put them together just went for it. I highly encourage you to continue your work. Thank you.
Who wants to go next?
Thank you, Radhaji, ODT, Shamir, and Poonam, wonderful presentations. And we request to UN adjust in your work. We request to UN to work the remote area to focus on the to apply human resource, human rights at remote area. We hope that it help. We hope that the puppet and our issue help to build policy for the focus on the remote area and backward peoples with backward peoples in CBOs. We want to campaign to Thank you, Radha.
Who wants to go next? We have 6 minutes.
Can I go next?
Please.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. And it's Ms. Sapna Paudel from the Radha Paudel Foundation, working along with Radha. On the behalf of the Radha Paudel Foundation and the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation, I would like to thank you all the participants for your time, for listening to us, for motivating us through your encouraged word, through the chat box. We are so much humbled and encouraged. And yes, if we are here to advocate on dignified menstruation. We are available on the Facebook page. We are on the Twitter. We are on the Instagram. Radha had already shared our website. If you need to collaborate with us, then please let us know. Please write to us. We are always ready to work in coordinations. Thank you.
And one more request, if any of you like to be a part of Global South Coalition as an individual level or organization level, there is a form in the website. It says membership form. Please fill it and let's do work in partnership. And there is a one online survey popping off in the website, Facebook, and everywhere. It's about dignified menstruation in school, and let's make our schools dignified by filling up that application. It is available in English, French, and Spanish. It's not about Nepal. It's not about me. It's about the menstruators. That means our mothers, our daughters, our sisters who occupied half of the population of this planet. Two minutes to go. Thank you, everyone. We are so humbled. And it means a lot.
Namaskar. Thank you so much to everyone, to the team members and leads. Please, Savitri, send my thank yous to all of the folk your way, and Radha, Samir, Punam.
1 minute to go.